Hey, this is Chris Wilson. I'm here at the Old City Greenwood Cemetery in Weatherford, Texas. I'm here to find the grave of a man who was an American Western hero who was almost completely forgotten until the release of the book Lonesome Dove. His name is Bose Icard. It's going to be kind of cool. So come on, let's go. The Greenwood Cemetery is located near downtown Weatherford. It was established in 1859 and is one of the most historic cemeteries in North Texas. Here you will find the graves of veterans of the Texas Revolution and the Civil War, among many others. You will also find a U.S. Speaker of the House of Representatives. There's also actress Mary Martin, who won 4 Tony Awards during her career. She was also the mother of Larry Hagman, perhaps most famous for his role on the Dallas TV series. One of the most famous cowboys in history is buried here, Oliver Loving. The Goodnight Loving Trail was named after him, the first cattle drive in history. With Charles Goodnight, Oliver Loving and his crew, to include Bose Icard, drove longhorn cattle from Texas in 1866. In 1867 in New Mexico, Oliver Loving was in a fight with Comanche warriors, and he was mortally wounded. Charles Goodnight heard of his friend's injury and rode to New Mexico, staying with him for 2 weeks until he died. Loving's last wish was for Goodnight to bring his body back to Texas, and he did exactly that. He brought him to Weatherford, Texas, and to this cemetery where he's buried next to his family. If this sounds familiar, it's because the author Larry McMurtry based the main characters in his novel Lonesome Dove on Charles Goodnight and Oliver Loving. They were played by Robert Duvall and Tommy Lee Jones in the famous miniseries Lonesome Dove, and like Goodnight, Tommy Lee Jones brought his friend's body back to Texas.
You that fella was taking some crazy man back to Texas for burial?
Bose Icard's grave is very easy to find. It's just 100 yards. You go straight through the front gate and it's just on the right-hand side. You can see the historical marker from the road. It's believed Bose Icard was born in 1843, the son of slaves in Mississippi. The Ikard family migrated to Texas after the Civil War. Bose would become a cowboy. And he would be hired on by Charles Goodnight. Today, when you watch a film like Red River, an all-time classic with one of John Wayne's greatest performances, and based on the Goodnight loving trail drive, you will see nary a black man in the film, not a single one. Such Western portrayals in many ways have created a false myth. In fact, Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove was the rare time a black man was portrayed as being involved in the cattle drives of the American West. Josh Dietz, who served as a tracker and guide in the book and film, was based on Bose Icard. He was played by Danny Glover.
The captain sent me ahead to scout a good place to cross the herd. Mr. Jake napping, huh?
He's cut a mesquite thorn in his hand. It's made him sick.
I better take a look. Mesquite thorns, bad poison.
Dietz? We're all right now, Lori. Dietz will see us through.
Sadly, in the book and film, Josh Dietz dies on the trail with a message carved into his tombstone.
It says, Josh Dietz. Served with me 30 years. Fought in 21 engagements. With the Comanche and the Kiowa. Cheerful in all weathers. Never shirked a task. Splendid behavior. That's what it says.
Well, it didn't happen exactly like that, but almost. Bose Icard would survive those cattle drives and settle in Weatherford, Texas to raise his family. He would die in 1928. When Charles Goodnight learned of his death, he said, "I trusted him further than any living man." Goodnight purchased a tombstone with this famous message. This is the famous message that's on Bose Icard's tombstone. The tombstone was bought for him by Charles Goodnight. It reads, "Served with me 4 years on the Goodnight loving trail. Never shirked a duty or disobeyed an order. Rode with me in many stampedes, participated in 3 engagements with Comanches. Splendid behavior. Charles Goodnight." After the release of the Lonesome Dove novel and the realization Josh Dietz was based on Bose Icard, Weatherford embraced his memory and named an elementary school after him. I was thrilled to discover that the character of Josh Dietz in Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove was based on an actual historical figure. I could barely believe it. By all accounts, Bose Icard was an extraordinary American Western hero. He was a great representative of the unsung heroes of the American West, the black cowboy. It's estimated that on those major trail drives that are most famous, 25 to 30% of the cowboys are made up of black men. Anyway, by all accounts, Bose Icard was a man of splendid behavior. He's buried here at the Old City Greenwood Cemetery in Weatherford, Texas.